It's not an issue of a narrow group of advisors, the so-called neocons, in the Pentagon and the State Department. It's a much broader process where particular groups of officials may come to rotate from one administration to the next, so as to ensure the US agenda of sequential theater wars, which is outlined in the PNAC. Senior officials within the Bush administration were involved in acts of complicity and camouflage with regard to the events of 9/11. And this is not simply a question of foreknowledge. It's the fact that the CIA has supported Al-Qaeda, that Al-Qaeda is an intelligence asset, that Al-Qaeda has performed on behalf of United States covert operations in different parts of the world. It's not a blowback to the era of the Cold War. Once you recognize that Al-Qaeda is a creature of US foreign policy and of the US intelligence apparatus, your understanding and perceptions on 9/11 are totally different to what they might be in the case where you're, an anti-war activist who wants to change the course of foreign policy, etc., etc. Because the lie ultimately behind this camouflage and complicity is so grotesque. I'm not suggesting necessarily that the Bush administration ordered the destruction of the World Trade Center, but if the Bush administration is saying that Al-Qaeda is behind it and that Al-Qaeda is a threat to America, while at the same time we have evidence that Al-Qaeda is collaborating with US government agencies in covert operations in the Balkans, and that this happened, barely a few months before 9/11, that we have evidence that Pakistan's inter-services intelligence, its military intelligence, supports the terrorists and supports these terrorist organizations, and that's corroborated by the Council on Foreign Relations. If that is true on the one hand, and if on the other hand, this same organization, Pakistan's ISI, has close bilateral relations with the CIA, with State Department, I'm talking at the very, very senior levels, then there's something fundamentally fishy on these links. Go beneath the surface, you then realize that in fact Osama bin Laden is a creature of the US intelligence apparatus. His whereabouts are known. Al-Qaeda has collaborated with the US military and intelligence and continues to collaborate. When you start looking into, let's say, the Bali bombing, and then you realize that the Bali bombing is conducted by a group which was trained in CIA camps in Afghanistan, that it has close links to Indonesian intelligence, and that Indonesian intelligence has close links to the CIA, well, then you say, well, there's something fishy there as well. In the context of the Iran-Contra scandal, where Oliver North, of course, was indicted, along with Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger, they were the visible personalities in the scandal, but the individual, the person within the US military who actually played a very key role was Colin Powell, because Colin Powell signed the release forms for the transfer of weapons from logistics to Iran, and with the proceeds of those weapons sales, they funded the Mujahideen, the Islamic brigades, as well as the Nicaraguan Contra. And we also know that Richard Armitage was behind that as well. So these individuals have, over the years, played a role in the process of support, of building and creating these Islamic brigades. And today they say Colin Powell in the United Nations Security Council will go in and say, we have to go after the terrorists. Saddam Hussein is linking up with Osama bin Laden, they're buddies and so on. The fact of the matter is that after September 11, on September 13th, when the head of Pakistan's ISI, General Mahmoud Ahmad, was invited into the State Department to negotiate the terms of Pakistan's cooperation in the war on terrorism, he negotiated with Colin Powell and Richard Armitage. There were meetings held behind closed doors on the 12th and the 13th of September with the head of Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence. Yet at the same time, the Bush administration knew, the FBI knew, the CIA knew, that this same individual was behind the transfer of money to the terrorists, as confirmed by an FBI report published in late September. They also knew of the historical link between the ISI and the terrorists. Obviously they knew because they're behind it. The CIA is at the pinnacle of this relationship. CIA, ISI, Al-Qaeda. That understanding, I think, is crucial. In an anti-war movement, we have to understand that the main political actors are criminals. They are war criminals, but they're involved in a process of deceit, using the instruments of intelligence, presenting the war on terrorism as an objective of US foreign policy, when in fact they are the architects of these terrorist organizations.